The preparation, the confidence that you build when you put a little prep into something, you get overly ready for something, the chance of you being successful increases tenfold. And if you really give a damn about what you're doing or who you're trying to do it for, or customers and whatnot, or your own success for that matter, why wouldn't you apply discipline, right? It's a proven way to be successful. You know, the situations that I go into in business or in life where I'm super confident, I often have way more fun with it.
Welcome back to the Chasing Goalpost podcast. Today's episode is a special one. We're sitting down with a former junior hockey teammate of mine turned corporate leader who's led teams of up to 400 people. Together, we're going to dive into the role sports played in shaping his mindset, why discipline is foundational, how systems can drive success, and what it takes to build high-performing teams and culture. So whether you're an athlete, business leader, or simply trying to level up your life, this episode is packed with practical takeaways. Without further ado, Jeff Affleck, welcome to the Chasing Goalpost podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, old buddy. It's good to be here. I'm excited to have a good conversation.
Well, we were chatting about this a little bit before the pod started, but for any Oilers fans out there, it's gonna be a tough episode if you got this on video, because Jeff's representing the Flames here today, and I think there's a little bit of excitement that the Cats took the Stanley Cup home there the other day. But we'll leave that for a different conversation. But just wanted to make sure that any Oilers fans out there were aware of this. So. But Jeff, before we dive into the core topics of today's episode, why don't we give the audience a little bit of background on who Jeff Affleck is, where you're from, anything you're willing to share about your background?
Yeah, sure. So, grew up in southern Manitoba. Old man was an RCMP member, so I traveled around and moved around quite a bit. But we ended up in Souris, Manitoba, is where I guess I grew up. Spent the majority of my childhood there. Sports was obviously a super important part of life growing up, whether it be playing golf, baseball, or hockey. Just like most of us in the prairies. That's where I got to meet Dustin. We ended up playing junior hockey in Swan Valley in the Manitoba Junior League together. Had a pile of fun there. Ended up getting an opportunity after a fairly lackluster junior career where I could barely stay in the lineup to go. I got to go down and play hockey down south in college and extend a mediocre hockey career for a few more years. Met some awesome people playing a little college hockey. Got to have a bit more fun, and then had to hit the real world after that. After school was done, decided to move into a career, and that's what brought us here today, I think. And I should touch on, I married 2 young kids, 2 girls, 12 and 9. It's an experience in itself, obviously. But they're great. Keep you on your toes, and they're actually hockey players too. So I get to stay involved in the game, stay involved in coaching and whatnot. So super lucky dude.
That's great. The next generation's coming up behind you here, so we'll see how that develops for you, which is awesome because I know girls hockey is really growing too here with the PWHL in both Canada and the US, and so it's exciting to see and good for the game, I think, overall. So
yeah, totally.
Well, listen, man, you've obviously done a lot of traveling in your day from, you mentioned kind of following your dad around into the RCMP, and obviously from hockey, right, from junior down to college, and then from a professional standpoint, you've navigated a couple career transitions and kept the kind of the travel and relocation going here with you and your family this time, right? Maybe just take us through that progression and how each chapter shaped your path.
Yeah, sure. So once I graduated university down south, it was during the recession of 2009 in the United States. It was tough to find a job, especially for a Canadian guy. So immediately started looking at opportunities up in Canada. I was dating a gal from the United States, so I had to twist her arm to come up and join me in Canada, which she eventually did. But I had to twist both arms to get her to come up. But ended up finding a role with a great organization in Regina, Saskatchewan. So I moved up there. It was in a marketing type role, just an introductory role with the company, where I got to learn the products, the processes of the organization, learn a bit about what their intent was, their desire to help ag customers in Canada. And I spent 2.5, almost 3 years in Regina, working in a sales gig and a sales and marketing gig. I got to apply some of the, I don't know, some of the, some creativity to my work. I had a great boss that let me have a bit of fun and do things my own way. Had a bit of success there, and ended up landing my first leadership role in Brandon, Manitoba, which is pretty much home for guys like you and I. So I got to move back to Manitoba for 4 years in a kind of a sales manager type role. That role is basically working with a group of agriculture lenders that their intent was to get out and help as many customers with their financing needs as possible. And growing up in the prairies in Manitoba, I mean, ag is kind of the industry, right? So it was awesome to move home because I got to reconnect with a pile of people that I hadn't, been able to spend much time with over the last decade. And the awesome piece was I get to cut my teeth in leadership for the first time. And it was an awesome experience. Lots of wins, lots of learnings. And I think that's, what helped shape my leadership style growing up is being forced to, have a bit of guts and try new things and take on challenging situations and have hard conversations with people when performance wasn't there, and challenge people to get better. And that was the job that I signed up for. So yeah, it was a great experience. I worked with an awesome group that was hungry to help lots of customers. So it wasn't a tough thing to convince people to get out and try and do a good job. Learned a pile there because I worked with a real veteran group. I was that annoying 30-year-old leader that managed, quite a few folks that were a lot older than me, that had far more experience and knowledge than me. I was the one banging on their doors saying, "Hey, when are we getting out the road to visit these clients? When are you going to make these calls?" And anyway, the group bought in, and we ended up having a pile of fun, built um, a real dynamic sales culture there, and had a bit of success. And then, after 4 years of that, I moved on to take on my own team. I wasn't just the sales leader. I was the actual director of a team in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. So the responsibilities grew from, just sales and driving numbers to leading the HR side of the business, leading the risk management side of the business. And it was a cool team in Eastern Saskatchewan, tons of real great customers, a veteran team as well that needed just a little guidance on and a little discipline on process and getting organized. And I was able to, help out there. And Yorkton, Saskatchewan, when I tell people that I spent a couple of years there, you often get the odd look, well, where's that? Or what was that like? And it was such a blast. Like, my family and I had so much fun there, met so many nice people. I hung the skates up for a couple of years, ended up lacing them back up in Yorkton. A group of farmers asked if I'd be interested in playing a beer league with them, and got back on the ice. And it not only was it fun to get back on the ice, but my network exploded because you can play a bit of hockey and have a bit of fun with some people. Word spreads, and then your name gets out there, and then I ended up building a bit of a community around there. So ended up having some success there. A couple of years later, moved on to Saskatoon to take on a bigger team and a bigger role with the organization. And yeah, it was probably a team twice the size. The responsibilities were probably twice as high. I ended up just leading leaders at that point. So that was a completely different dynamic versus, working with frontline staff and coaching people to apply their practice and their expertise to help customers. I was now coaching the coaches. So that was a new thing for me, a whole different challenge. You have to learn, not only do you have to learn the styles and the strengths and challenges of the staff, but you got to see how they're being coached, and how can you influence the coach to apply their craft to more than just one or two people. It's generally 7, 8, 10 people that they were leading. So, that role took a couple of years to get used to. It's one of those things where you're a doer, you're in the business, and now you got to sit back a bit more and coach and allow it to happen in front of you.
I want to stop you. You want to stop right there because this is interesting. I think for people, you've kind of got as you move into a leadership role, you're kind of I look at it kind of like Slapshot. You got little Reg Dunlop player coach mentality. And then the next level up from that is, you're leading leaders. So you're called general manager and you've got a coach and then players underneath the coach. Right. And so
Yeah.
it's very different skill set, I got to assume, right? Because you're leading leaders, you're not player coach in this situation.
Totally. Yeah, it is something like the GM. And that's what the guy that hired me told me. That's the analogy he used too. And so yeah, it was an interesting transition. It seriously took me a couple years to figure it out. Not get in the leader's hair, not like overstep their authority or not step on their toes, right? You had to let them be the leader and the voice, right? So, so yeah, that took a bit of time. It was more of a, once I learned the shtick a little bit better, it was more about setting vision. It was more about setting expectation. It was more about observation, and then, taking the coach aside after and saying, "Hey, if you tried this, you might have better luck." Or, "Hey, when you said that to the staff member, did you see the look on their face? Do you think that resonated with them? Do you think you could do something a little bit different next time?" Or, and then on the more tougher stuff that comes with that is holding a leader accountable for the lack of productivity of one of their individuals, right? I can't just jump in and save the day or say, "Hey, this isn't working. Um, this needs to be fixed," or we're making changes. That wasn't my role anymore. My role was to like help the coach try and figure that situation out. So it took a little patience and lots of growing pains, but yeah, but eventually got it going. It was a team that needed lots of support. It was a team that had tons of potential, but wasn't able wasn't able to put it all together. And we ended up having some insanely successful years there. And the productivity was through the roof. Our customer experience scores were super awesome. The engagement with the team, which is my favorite stat, was tops in our area. Like, I was super proud of the work that we ended up doing there and the team we built. The team was like amazing. I had some super great leaders that were tough as nails, but also, you know, um, tough as nails, but also like high EQ individuals that understood people and cared about their folks. So it was awesome. And then from there, I got a VP opportunity with the same organization. Got to move out to Calgary, live a childhood dream, living in the city of Calgary, Alberta, and as a Flames fan. So, but yeah, no, I got to move to Calgary. This is where I got to lead the largest team that had the experience of leading, and that became even, instead of the GM, I was now the president of an organization, or like I don't know, whatever the next level would be, right? So you're coaching coaches who coach coaches and whatnot. So it was more of a, this was a far bigger role, a lot more time spent at the boardroom table with executives. Again, creating vision, building strategy, taking a global look at your entire business versus individual pieces here and there, trying to forecast what's needed for teams and direction of the business and the organization. Making larger, more important decisions that were going to impact a whole lot of people. And at the end of the day, accountable to produce high volumes of business, but also make sure that you've got, between 250 and 400 people engaged in what they're doing and not, disliking their job. So it was a big role. Did it for 3 years. With the organization that I used to work with, a pile of fun, worked with a lot of great people. And then just recently in the last couple of months, I moved on to a different organization to try something new. I work with Royal Bank of Canada now. I work with the commercial services team. So I lead a team a mid-market commercial team now. that's around Calgary. We have diversified clients. We have agriculture clients. It's a super awesome balance between different types of businesses. It's the same shtick. It's trying to be as productive as possible, get leaders and staff to to apply their craft, help as many commercial clients as possible, and all the while have a bit of fun while doing it. So I'm only a couple months into the new role now, so I'm having a lot of fun and learning. I'm the annoying new guy now that's asking like 1,000 questions to understand like systems and policies and stuff like that. But people have been super nice and gracious with their time, and we've got a good team, and we're having a bit of fun and having a bit of success early. So far so good on this new venture in my career. So
Good. Well, early in the season this year, and you're off to a good start, it sounds like, with the new gig. So congrats on that. The one thing I want to come back to, not right now, but later in the pod, is I think this is important for the audience here. You talked about wins and learnings. And it wasn't wins and losses, it was wins and learnings. And so I want to come back to that later in the pod, but that one stood out for me. But, walking through all of that, career experience, there's really some key themes that you and I have talked about as you kind of look back and look forward. And those are going to be obviously essential to business and career success for anybody. I know our listeners are going to be interested in some of these, and I'm just going to list them off here because we're going to dive deeper into each one of these. And the first one is the role of discipline. The second one is the value of applying systems and processes, which I love. And the third one is the importance of building strong culture and teams, which this is all a part of success, but obviously lots to unpack there. But let's start with discipline. One thing that really stood out to me was you had said to me in a previous discussion, there needs to be relentless accountability to a cause. I'm going to say that again. There needs to be relentless accountability to a cause. Maybe can you break that down for us and help us understand why that's
sure. So two things, like discipline wasn't something I was good with growing up. And I don't mean I was a bad kid, but like discipline of like applying something and doing it over and over and over again, and like building habits and then strengthening those habits and then getting good at something, right? um it was something I learned at a later age. That it's just you shake your head and go, "God, I wish I would have had a bit of this growing up," right? So anyways, I'll throw that out there now just in case there's the odd friend of mine that listens to this and has a chuckle. But when we chatted about that, what I learned early is that you can't. So when you're getting paid to lead people, or if you're getting paid to do a job, or if you're just looking to be successful in something, you can't leave it to chance that you're going to be successful. You can't just cross your fingers and think you can show up one day and it's all going to work out, right? And it might, right? Let's say you're in you're prepping for a big sales meeting, and or you're prepping for a week, and you come into it willy-nilly. You don't spend any time thinking about what how you want it to go, practicing what you want to accomplish, thinking of best and worst case scenarios. You could do that. You can go in unprepared and then just chance it that you're going to be successful, right? Or you can apply, some relentless discipline to something and practice it, get as prepared as possible. And this isn't rocket science, but the preparation, the confidence that you build when you put a little prep into something, you get overly ready for something, the chance of you being successful increases tenfold. And if you really give a damn about what you're doing or who you're trying to do it for, or customers and whatnot, or your own success for that matter, why wouldn't you apply discipline, right? It's a proven way to be successful. It's the situations that I go into in business or in life where I'm super confident, I often have way more fun with it, right? You're riffing, you're having a bit of fun, stuff rolls off your tongue. You're ready for the challenges that'll come in the situation because you've prepped and you've thought about it, right? Meanwhile, if you're not prepped, you're sitting there, having less fun, you're trying to think about solutions on the go, and customers or staff or whatever you're working on can tell. So, the moral of that point was, apply an insane amount of discipline to something, and your chances of success are going to be far, far more, are far, far higher. And it's crazy because it's something you're in control of. And if you've elected or chosen to not, apply a little discipline, that's on you, right? So that's when we chatted about it, that's where I've said, I've had some success with teams, where we over prepped, we've been over clear on expectations. People knew what success was, right? So they knew what they were striving for, and it wasn't a big wonder about. And I think that's what you owe, as a leader, you owe your people to have them understand what success looks like. Yeah, because that's what you're going to coach them to, right? And that's the cool thing about discipline is even if it doesn't work out, you busted your butt and you did what you could, and you prepped to the point where you thought you were going to be ready. And sometimes it doesn't work out, but it's not like you're going to go look in the mirror and say, sheesh, I didn't get ready. It's like, you know what? We missed that one. We took a swing, we missed, but the journey or the prep was worth it. And so anyway, that's kind of what I meant with it. And sometimes that, it's a piece that's not easy to coach to, discipline and accountability. And that's where culture comes in at times, to build a hungry culture that wants it. Not to flip the culture here, but once you get there, like when it's like a machine, like take the Panthers of just they made it so hard for the Oilers to be to produce. Like it was not only because I don't like the Oilers, but I mean, it was just awesome to see as a hockey guy and someone that's all about systems and how to do things right. So anyway,
Let's transition to systems here in a second, but
yeah,
I think, you made some good points there, and one in regards to that, I'm just kind of like, what am I hearing here as you're speaking? And the headline is preparation is within everybody's control, right? So there's some certain things on the day of the meeting or the day of the pitch or whatever you want to call it, that's out of your control. Technology doesn't work. Maybe someone shows up late, so on and so forth, but preparation is something within your control. And as you were speaking there, one of the things a coach told me back in the day was stress is pressure you're not prepared for. And so when you were talking about preparation, I was just thinking about that. I'm like, people get stressed because it's pressure they're not prepared for or ready for. And some of that's just learning, but some of that is maybe lack of preparation. So, that was the thing that I was thinking about as you were kind of walking through all that stuff.
Yeah, cool.
So, well, the next topic, you kind of mentioned the systems and processes. This is one of my favorite topics too, as you talked about the Panthers, and I'm a huge system guy. I love systemizing things. And again, I'm going to kind of pull out a quote that you mentioned to me, and that was, you need a fail-proof plan of attack. And I think this gets a little bit back to pressure, but I'm guessing that systems, processes, and strategies all play a pretty big role in that. Maybe unpack that a bit for us.
yeah, it relates quite a bit back to the discipline piece, when we talk about systems and the prep that you put in to something, um, is cool and all, but building a system that's fail proof it enables your people to actually execute and get stuff done and be as successful as possible. Prep doesn't mean squat if you don't have a system or don't have a process that's fail proof to get things done, right? Then it's all just talk, right? So yeah, so like, but when it comes to systems, I like some of the things that I've applied, or some of the things that I've thought of and used over the years that have been successful, is actually taking what we need to get done, blocking it into, or setting it up into chunks, to make it super super easy to understand, super easy to execute on, and super easy to pivot from if things aren't on track to where you're confident to keep moving it forward. And that's where leadership comes in. That's where the creativity comes in from your teams, regardless if it's sports or if it's in the business world. It's setting up easily understandable processes so that your people just have to show up and friggin' execute. And I think that's where I think that's often where bumps in the road occur um, in business. Is you talk a big game, you talk a big, strategy, you outline what you'll want to accomplish. And then once you open the door and push the team out to go do it, they don't know where to start, right? It's pick up the phone and start banging out calls to clients and setting up meetings. Well, cool and all, but what's your introduction going to be? Why are you calling? What's your hook going to be in the first 30 seconds so they don't hang up on you, right? Why are they going to want to listen to you? How are you going to present yourself in a way that engages the client to the point where they're going to be like, "Ah, this guy's got some value. He's got some cool points here. He sounds like he's enthusiastic. He's got something he can, some value he can offer me. I'm going to stay on the line here, right?" And et cetera, et cetera. And you can go on with how the process should look, right? But if you don't have something set up so that staff can easily step in, they know step one is this, and they got to execute that to the nth degree. And then step two is this. You do that well, you get the chance to get to step three. And you do that well, you get the chance to go to step four, right? And if step four doesn't go well, you've already talked about plan B and plan C. You know that there's the show doesn't end there. There's opportunities to pivot, right? And I think that's part of strategy that sometimes gets missed, is that we plan for things to go smooth. And, unless, you've had lots of experience and you built the resiliency to hear no, and still move on. Like if you don't have that in you, it's not going to be a whole lot of fun. And that's, again, where leaders have to step in and help build processes and systems so that, the team members have a chance at being successful, right? All that prep is for nothing unless you get to play the game. So that's why I think it's as important as discipline is setting your gang up for success. And I've had some luck with that where, you've come into teams. I'll just share, a couple of examples. I've come into teams where great reactive when it comes to customers. Someone calls in, you're good at answering their questions. You can satisfy needs that the customer says, here's what I need. Can you help me with it? Right. I've had teams that were successful as heck with that. Right. But when times change and demand isn't there and customers aren't banging calls out to you 24/7 and looking for help, and maybe economic downturn, and you got to crank up the proactivity and start reaching out to clients. I've had teams that were like, "Oh, I don't know what to do. Like, do I reach out to them? Why would they want to hear from me? Maybe they're busy." It's like, no. We're going to have to build a process here to build your confidence up so that you can execute no matter what kind of economic situation we're in. You might think that because your phone's not ringing that people don't have needs. No, you got to go find the needs now. And
I'm going to stop you there, Jeff. I think this is interesting because a lot of people fall into this. I feel like, you're talking to people of like, well, I don't know if I should reach out right now. I don't want to be a pain in the butt, all those kind of things. I don't want to be a nuisance. And you said something a few minutes ago, and it stands out to me. And I'm always love this about strategy and systems and processes. What value are you bringing? If you're bringing value, you should not worry about reaching out, right? And if you're not bringing value, I think there's a valid reason why you should not reach out, right? But that comes back to preparation and your strategy. And like, hey, if you're going to bring value and you perceive you're going to bring your customers value, you should be reaching out.
yeah, I often say that to the group. It's like, if you think if we're as good as we think we are, there shouldn't be a single person that isn't gonna, appreciate you calling, right? And if we're as good as we think we are, then why wouldn't the customer all work with us versus who they're working with now? whether it be financial services, a product, or something like that. If we're as good as we think we are, then why wouldn't they want to work with us? So why not make a bunch of calls and invite everyone to join the party, right? So anyway, totally with you.
Yeah, no, it's interesting too because I'm listening to what you're saying here, and I've always said you got to put people as a leader. You put people in positions to succeed, and then ultimately there's a part of that that's up to them. They need to take that system and process and strategy and run with it and execute on it. To your point, there's an interesting quote and don't quote me on this. I think it was James Clear, but as you're walking through this, the quote was, "We don't rise to the level of our goals, but we fall to the level of our systems." And so you start to think about that as I'm thinking about like goal setting and things of that nature. You say, I want to go and achieve X.
Mhm.
Well, if you don't have a plan and a strategy and a process system, call it what you want to get there. A goal without a plan is a dream, right? So I think that's what you're kind of talking about here is you can have these goals, but how are you going to execute? How are you going to get there? What's that roadmap to kind of achieve it? So
Yeah. Yeah, bingo. And then you can look back if you put together a cool plan and a a fail-proof process to get there. You look back and you say, "Friggin' nailed it," right? Versus swinging for a home run and maybe connecting with one every now and again. Like it's I don't know. I wouldn't leave it to chance. Not at this stage of my life and career. It's like I've learned the hard way so many times where I haven't been prepped enough. It's not worth it. So
no.
anyway.
Well, let's move on to building strong cultures and teams. And I mean, leading teams of up to 400 people. We briefly talked about it earlier. I mean, I think my question, and probably the question for a lot of people is, how do you strike the right balance between motivation, accountability, and ultimately inspiration, when leading at that scale?
Yeah, it's an interesting challenge to an opportunity to have 400 different people, 400 different personalities, 400 people of which respond differently to different types of messages and so to try and accommodate every single personality, it's literally impossible, right? But at the end of the day, a couple things that I found seem to, work. I'll start with authenticity. I mean, if you show up and you're not authentic, people don't get to see you as a person, but also as a leader. I think you're missing a real opportunity there. Um, I think staff resonate with someone that they feel like they can be comfortable with, someone that they can be real with. They don't have to pretend around. And that's something that, I try to apply in a lot of my roles is to get to know staff, get on the front line with them, see what they do, how they do it, hear their voices when they're talking about the challenges that they have. Look them in the eye and tell them what you're going to, do about it versus sending an email or passing the buck on to someone else. So I think as far as like, where it's important to start is being, authentic as possible. Right. And, that way there's a level of trust that's built that, people might be curious and not sure about what messages you're delivering, but if they trust you, they'll start to lean in and they'll give it a try. Right. So that's an important piece. Like when it comes to motivation and a word that I think is overused, inspiration, but when it comes to motivating groups that big, you got to be good at telling stories. You have to be good at like explaining the why behind the desires of the organization or the intent of a certain plan or strategy, right? And you have to do again with authenticity, with some energy. You got to, bring the strategy to life for them, show them where they fit in within it. And whether it's an admin person that, that's taking calls or answering people that come to the retail shop, or it's, your most productive salesperson that drives insane volumes of business. Everybody has a place. Everybody has a part of it. And, if certain individuals feel like that, they really don't have much relevancy, or they don't have much impact on the outcome of what you're trying to do, then that stinks, right? It's like a hockey team, right? And this is something, again, I didn't learn till I was a little bit older, but the third and fourth line guys on a team can be as impactful as the guys potting PP goals all game, right? Because they're making it hard for the other team. They're playing tough in the corners. They're making the game miserable for the other team, right? And that allows your top guys to maybe score, right? And not everybody's going to be a goal scorer, the top lending individual on your team. So when I'm talking about motivation here, I think you got to find a way to draw a line of sight between every single individual on your team to what the outcome that you're trying to achieve is, what the win is, and what their part of the win is all about. And that's something I tried to do a lot. I enjoy working with, the frontline staff that the admin people. Enjoyed working with them as much, if not more, than the top people in different organizations, because they care so much, and they value your time so much, and the excitement in their eyes on their wins is something that inspires me. And so anyways, from a motivational standpoint, I think that's what's super important. You've got such a large group, you've got to treat everybody the same. And that's a fun challenge, because like I said, you have 400 different people that resonate differently with what you're trying to accomplish. Some people that it's just a job, right? They show up, pay the bills, they show up, and you can still have fun and work with those guys. And I don't fault them. That's the way they are, right? Maybe they got other passions in life, and that's cool. But at the end of the day, it's they're still a part of the team. They got to be productive and be a good person culturally, and it's fun to work with them. No different than the All-Stars. So
the authenticity. One thing I want to stop you there. Sorry, just to interrupt, but the authenticity piece, I think, is huge, and we don't talk a lot about that, but people see right through it. So if you're not authentic, people can pick up that spidey sense. I mean, I'll speak for myself. If someone's not being authentic, I get a vibe right away. I can just be like, listen, this person's not being authentic, and it's a little bit of a pet peeve for myself, to be candid. But I come back to, like, you talked about some things there about authenticity was popping out for me, and then the winnings and the learnings. I said, I think a lot of people that probably work with you, it's like, hey, we're going to learn along the way, but we're ultimately learning in an effort to win. And we talk a bit about the Florida Panthers here, just because we're post Stanley Cup here now, but you see a lot of those clips from time to time, and I'm gonna bring up two that I think resonate with this conversation and the culture piece. Is they showed Paul Maurice on the phone, and they were talking about hammering on the D-man and forechecking, and so when it gets to Game 7, they got nothing left in the tank, right? That's part of their culture and their team kind of motivation and inspiration. And the other piece I think that's pretty important is, I was listening to this podcast, I think it was Elliot Friedman or one of those guys from Sportsnet, and they had talked about, I think it was maybe Nate Schmidt had turned the puck over at the blue line or something similar. And I'm paralleling sports and business here, just so everybody's aware, right? And so he either give the puck away, or he did something that obviously was a mistake and a learning. But he came back to the bench and he said, somebody yelled down the bench and said, "We don't do that here." And that's a culture piece, right? Of like, hey, you chip the puck, you get to the blue line, you're chipping it out, you're moving it forward, you're not trying to dangle guys, right? It was kind of like, hey, if you want to play on this team, buy in or get off. And we know the outcome.
Yeah. I love that. I love that bar. I love the bar that they set. I love that pick it. Yeah, I love it. The bar in sports, like, you're going to be on this team, this is how we do it. Or business, you're going to be on this team, this is how we do it. I love that, like, informal leadership that drives that is, like, insanely inspiring to me.
Well, I think too, maybe, I think it's a bit of the iceberg analogy, where 7/8 below the surface. Like the Panthers in that culture didn't just turn that on overnight. That was probably 3 to 5 years, maybe 10 years leading up to that. They were building that culture, and then you only see the last 2 years of success. But it's interesting when you look at teams and cultures, kind of similar to what you're saying there. It's like, they're driving accountability, they're highly motivated, and they've got a lot of inspiration to hoist the cup, and that's the ultimate goal. So, I mean, it's just interesting. So let's stay with hockey because I think this is an important transition for the group. And looking back on your career to date, and maybe even looking forward, how do you think your hockey background or your sports background has shaped your path and contributed to your success?
Yeah, I think it's got a pile to do with it. Yeah, both from what I learned growing up in the sport, but also some of the things that I learned the hard way too. So, um, I'll start with learning what being a good teammate is all about, and being a part of something bigger than you as the individual, right? Having experience growing up and being a part of, groups that are going to, I don't know, might be a silly terminology, but going to war together or going into battle together and having to work together and stick together and not to get through it, and learning, how to win as a group and then how to lose as a group, pick your pals up when things aren't going well, right? And how to stay focused. And I look for that in business, actually. Like, I look for that when I'm interviewing people. I look for that when I'm trying to find if someone's a fit for a team of mine. I look to see first and foremost, are they capable of being a good teammate? And I often look in their resume. I'll look in the second page and I'll see, did they play sports? Did they have, are they coaches? Do they volunteer? Are they a part of something bigger than, or something different than, what they're getting paid for? And I've had some success bringing in like old hockey guys or old, people that have tons of volunteer experience. Some of the coaches, their kids through, all youth sports where they've dealt with the dynamics of kids and parents and boards and stuff like that. Do you have the ability to be an awesome teammate? And I've talked about that in my old organization. I'm getting into it now with my new team. That was one of my key priorities. It's like, is your attitude spot on? Like, I need you to have good attitude, and every day, as hard as you work for your customers, I need you to be a damn good teammate. The second you walk in the door, it's like, you got to be looking to be as good a teammate as possible. Whatever that means to you, you can figure it out. But it has to be something when you leave at the end of the day. He said, I made my team better, and it wasn't to my benefit, maybe. So I learned that through sports. Again, one of those things that I wish I would have been better at growing up. Like, I wish I would have focused more on team and being a leader and being, um, I was able to be a captain on a couple of teams, and I would do it totally different now if I had the chance. And but that's the thing. Growing up, you learn on, as much on the things you didn't do well as the things you do well. So sports allowed me to, bring the teammate aspect to business. On the culture side of things, like your example with the Panthers there, the culture that they built, and like, hey, this is how we do things here. If you want to be a part of this, like, this is how we do things here, and building like a culture that drives that, and that people are hungry to be a part of. People want to be a part of winners, right? They want to be a part of groups that they can be proud of. And I think that's also comes from sports, is that you spend so much time together with teams, you build like your own inner culture. And if it's strong enough and you're successful enough, others want to be involved with it, right? And that's when you've nailed it, when people are begging to be on the team. And I've applied that in business as well. I coached a team in a business. Sorry, one of my experiences was in Saskatoon, and I came in as kind of a rebuilding team, we'll say, using the sports analogy. And I told them, we're gonna miss the playoffs. I use this analogy all the time, and some of them would even reference it today as like, we're gonna miss the playoffs first couple of years here, but we're gonna win the cup multiple years after that. And didn't try and win the cup. I mean, of course, you're busting your butt to try and be successful, but the goal wasn't to win the cup the first couple of years. It was to build our system, our process, our culture. And no kidding, like, after a couple of tougher years rebuilding, I had this really lame graph in our boardroom that had boats on it, and a trajectory upward to be to where success was. And it was a way I could show the team, hey, we're starting down here. We're missing the playoffs. As you can see, we're inching our way forward here. And then guess what happens at the end? We win the friggin' cup. And that's exactly what we did. I ended up, winning 2-3 cups in the end, and looked them in the eye after and say, hey, this is on you guys. Way to go. Like, you stuck to it. And so just that attitude, the language you use, like from the dressing room to the boardroom, it's very, very similar. Some people get annoyed with the analogies of sports, but most people don't, and they have a bit of fun with it. So I throw it out there anyway. And
Yeah.
so that's some of the stuff, and another thing real quick I gotta touch on is just some of the things you learn from the coaches growing up. It'd be crazy not to touch on some of that stuff. Like, as a leader in business, it's just like being a coach in lots of ways, right? And we've all had tons of coaches growing up, some that you loved and you followed every word that they said, and you're like, applied some of the language, some of the ideas that they've had, um, you know, that have influenced you. You apply them in your own craft today. And then some you didn't resonate with, right? You learned like what you don't want to do whenever you get a chance to coach or lead people. And I owe a lot of credit to that, to a lot of coaches over the years, where, their approaches have kind of taken the good from a lot, and then, taken the not so good from a couple that, and just swore that I'd never use that type of, motivation tactic or whatever. Right. So that's blessed me with some skills that I didn't have to create on my own. I got to steal from some mentors and whatnot growing up. So yeah, the correlation is crazy between sports and business, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't apply some sort of discipline or some sort of aspect of my former hockey world into what I do today. So
Yeah, I love the parallels. I talk about it all the time, and just you mentioned it was as you were walking through that story that you just told, or that analogy. I mean, I'm thinking about it. Okay, you're coming to the dressing room, you're playing 60, 80 games a year, whatever it may be, and are you in the first line, second line, third line, fourth line, whatever you are that day? At the end of the day, the goal is to get 2 points and get a win. And sometimes you don't play as much as you wanted, or you don't get the goal, you don't get the assist, but the team wins, and you killed a couple penalties and you contributed. And for me anyways, given my style of play back in the day, that was more of the importance piece for me. And I can extrapolate. I do the same thing as you. You look at LinkedIn profiles, you looked at resumes, and you go down and say, what kind of sports adversity community has this person been a part of? And there's probably going to be some parallels there and extrapolations that can come to fruition based upon their experience.
No, totally. Yeah, 100%.
Well, I wouldn't be doing my job on this platform if we can't wind this thing down yet. We got to ask you, what is Jeff Affleck ultimately chasing?
Ooh, that's a great question. You know what? I'm at this stage in life and in my career, I'm chasing I almost restarted a career moving to a different organization here, and I'm chasing challenges. I'm chasing I'm chasing impact. I'm chasing a I'm chasing something that was missing from my former organization for a little while, which is being, part of something important, but having as much an impact on the people that are, rely on me as possible, beyond, um, dollars and cents, and pushing them on the day-to-day work stuff. Like, really building a community amongst my team that's not only productive as heck, but also something that they'll look back on and say, that was a pretty, great time in my career where I felt, great about what I did, about the people that I did it with. And ultimately, if I could go back then to that stage in my career, I would. And that's, might sound hokey, but I've done some cool things in my career, and had some successes and challenges. But, at this stage, like, you just want to have a bit of fun with what you do every day. I want to be able to go to work get some important stuff done and then come home with the same amount of energy that I went to work with, which requires you to, have a bit of fun at work and not take things too serious. Get along with the people you work with, but also be able to, I'm a competitive dude, to be able to live into that part of my personality every day. So yeah, at the end of the day, I'm chasing happiness, man. If I'm being honest with you, it's 44 now. I'm not getting any younger there. And, we may as well have a bit of fun while you're here and have an impact while you're here, So yeah, it's a great question. I rambled there, but at the end of the day, just want to be happy and productive and have an impact on people that they'll remember positively. And so.
Love it, man.
Yes.
No, thanks for sharing that with us. I mean, it's a unique question. It's one that's tough to answer. And candidly, that's why we, branded the podcast the way we branded it. Was we asked ourselves that question and couldn't answer it a couple of years ago. And I think you answer it, your point, given the season of life you're in, you're probably going to answer that differently. And you probably would answer it differently 10 years ago. You probably going to answer it differently in 10 more years, but that's part of the journey and part of life. So, listen, man, we're going to wind it down. Thank you so much for joining. We are all, everyone listening to this, myself, we're all chasing success in different ways. And whether that's in our careers or our personal lives, the insights that you shared today could offer a lot of real value. And I think all of us can apply those to our own journeys here. And, it was a blast playing hockey with you back in the day, man. It's been really great to reconnect and catch up. For maybe before we go, but congrats on all the success you've achieved, since the hockey days. I mean, it's been a journey for you, I know, and all the best to you and your family moving forward. And, I would say, let's make sure we do this again down the road.
Yeah, I'd love to. It was awesome to catch up with you, and congrats on the pod here and all that you've been up to. I'm going to try and get down to Minneapolis and visit you here sometime in the next 6 months. So yeah, okay, we can do it in person next time.
We're going to hold you to that, man. Thanks again.
Yeah. Cool.
Cheers.
Cheers, buddy.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Chasing Goalpost podcast. Just a reminder for everyone that all of our disclaimers can be accessed via www.chasinggoalposts.com/disclaimers. We'll see you next episode.